big ups to Tottenham Hotspur, who win the Europa League, qualify for the Champions League.
Champions of Europe, well done.
Win their first trophy in 17 years, their first European trophy in, I think, more than 40 years.
41 years.
41 years. How about that? And it's all down to Big Ange, who,
of course,
who always wins trophies in his second season.
Always.
He told us, and he delivered. All right, now that that's out of the way, Jules. As a neutral, this was not a good game.
No.
And I can kind of see and it kind of depressed me a little bit, because here you have two teams that, you know, obviously had a dire season. And let's face it, to any rational person, winning this doesn't change that. All it means is you get to play in the Champions League next year, which improves your prospects in the transfer market this summer, and it means you have more money. Okay, that's all it means.
Yeah, you
right?
saved a bad season, basically. That's what you did.
You got something back from it, but in terms of where these teams are, that hasn't changed at all, has it?
No, absolutely not. And we showed that in the final anyway.
And yet so why was the way they played? Why was I don't know. I thought Spurs were very conservative in this game.
Yeah.
And it's not like they took the lead straight away. The lead obviously coming only at the end of the first half. When I saw Bruno in midfield, and Mason Mount on the pitch, who I know you're a big fan of, I thought, all right, he's gonna not do something different, but this is something that obviously they've worked on. So, like, you know, they expect to have the ball a lot. Bruno's gonna spread it around. That didn't work.
For me, this one is on Amorim from start to finish. Everything that he did, everything that he tried was wrong, never worked. They never got going. Okay, they were a little bit better maybe in the second half, but just because they put a lot of balls in the box, and this time you had Maguire and but that was it. There was nothing from United, from Amorim in this game. That was so disappointing for Spurs and Ange. And credit to Ange. And I like Ange as a person. I'm not a big fan of him as a coach. And I don't think he would stay. But what I will say, though, is for someone who was so stubborn originally, who famously said, we were never going to change, we will always play the same way, high line, super attacking, this is our style, very dogmatic, certainly when he arrived. The last few weeks, especially in this competition in the Europa League, he became more pragmatic. He changed his approach for something more conservative, as you say, more defensive, you could say, certainly better structured than what we've ever seen from him in the 2 seasons that he's been here in England. And that worked. That works for a cup competition. Sure, it would not work in the league, and I don't think I'm not sure they're very good at it. It worked yesterday because it was stupid from United the way they attacked. But still credit to Ange for realizing that he had to change, and had to change a little bit his style and philosophy to make this a success in Europe.
Yeah, I wonder if Madison and Kulusevski had been available, whether we would have seen something different. I mean, in the end, if you don't have an attacking midfielder, rather than asking Pap Sarr to impersonate one, you're better off, I think, with a line of 3 in front of the back 4, I guess. But they also sat deeper, as you said. And again, maybe Richarlison being fit and available and playing quite a bit recently, maybe that was part of it. You know, letting him attack the space, letting Brennan Johnson attack the space. Amorim said something afterwards that really surprised me. And I know people are going to cut. He says, if he gets sacked, he does not want any compensation. Now, nobody pushed him on it, but, you know, the way it works is managers sign contract, 2 years, 3 years, whatever it is. If you get fired before the end of your contract, the club, in England anyway, pays up the rest of your contract. And sometimes they pay you even more because they find other reasons to. This is pretty big. This is, if I'm Jim Ratcliffe, and Jim Ratcliffe's, given the way he's been bean counting, I think about this and I say, do you really mean this? Can I hold you to this?
He says this because he knows he's not going to get sacked anyway. That's the only reason why he says this.
I think it makes it a lot easier because for him to be sacked now.
But they're not going to sack him. They've told him before the final that regardless of the result, they will keep him.
I'm not suggesting he's going to be sacked on the final. But once you're on the record saying this, I think what it means is that they could sack him in October and it would save them, I don't know, 18, 20 million,
later.
Whatever it is, depending on the unexpired time. And given the way this club has been run by Ratcliffe, where, you know, people are being laid off, you're looking at every penny. I just wonder if that's something that comes in play. Bruno Fernandes also saying, well, he's willing to leave if it helps the club, which I was not expecting him to say. I don't think he's going to leave. And we need to celebrate, though, Spurs a little bit because it's been
absolutely.
a tremendous wait. Those are very patient fans. All right, Jules, we'll go back to hammering Amorim and United.
Yeah, they deserve it.
But let's talk about Tottenham a little bit. And again, for those who don't have a sense of what Tottenham is and what they have been, there's this term Spursy, which is they're seen as a club that historic. I think this goes back to the 70s and 80s that play attractive football, but then always stumble at the last hurdle, always throw it away. And parallels drawn with Inter Milan. The difference is Inter Milan have actually won a few things since then, and this was Spurs' first trophy in 17 years. The fan base, Spurs are from North London. You have Arsenal almost next door, and yet people don't just grow into Spurs family. They choose to be Spurs fans, and for a whole generation of people, especially since Daniel Levy took whole control of the club. All they've known, essentially, is near misses and failures. Obviously, the biggest, the Champions League final. You live in that general area. Can you just talk a little bit about this? Because
I mean, it's a very good fan base. Obviously, they're very supportive of their club. It's a strong community, tight community. I think maybe the disappointments that we've just mentioned and those heartbreaks where you lose finals, whether it's Champions League final, FA Cup final, League Cup final, which they've lost since that last title in 2008 with Juan de Ramos when they won the League Cup with Jonathan Woodgate goal of all people. It's also, I think, those moments kind of put you even more together and unite you even more because everybody is obviously criticizing you or making fun of you, whatever, and you just wait for that moment where actually things are going to turn, and this is the ninth richest club in the world. This is not just a small club that happened to be very good in the past and has still a lot of fans. It's a huge club with a lot of money. Maybe the best stadium in Europe or one of the best, maybe the best training ground in Europe or again, one of the best, that should do much better than what they've done. It's between 08 and Wednesday night so between the two last trophies. I mean, teams like Swansea, Birmingham, Portsmouth, teams like that won't even just an FA Cup, but they would have been happy with an FA Cup now and again. So this is huge. I don't know if this can turn everything around and you're not Spursy anymore because you beat a terrible United team, and you are a terrible team this season overall too. I don't know if that's enough to change the whole narrative and the whole dynamic, but it might be. This might be a new dawn for this club, and that can only be a good thing for them.
Yeah, I think you make some great points there. I think the other thing is in this time period, they've tried it many different ways. Yeah. So generally, they don't pay enormous wages, but they have spent money in transfer fees. They are one of the so-called Big Six. I think legitimately in that group. Have they spent as much as Man City or United or Liverpool?
I think they're the fourth highest in net spend for the last 4 years in the Premier League.
In the last 4 years.
Yeah,
right? Well,
it's a lot of money, or 5 years. Yeah.
So they probably spent 1/10 as much as Chelsea, but that's a whole other issue. And they've generally, I was thinking back, and so they've had huge managers like Mourinho, like Conte, so they spent money on that. Like even Pochettino was there for a long time, and you may not put him in the same class as Mourinho or Conte, but he was there and was successful. The Spurs' moment for me is when Leicester won the title, and that season it was there, and it didn't work out. I was thinking, did they lose? And in terms of the size of the club, this isn't a club really that loses top players to other clubs who, obviously Harry Kane different, although Harry Kane stuck it out for 10 years. But it's not like they've had, maybe Modric going to Real Madrid.
Yeah.
That was a long time ago.
Bale to some extent maybe too.
And again, they got an enormous fee for,
absolutely.
Bale is the notable one, but again, you can't complain. You got 100 million.
I don't think absolutely.
And I'm on the record saying that was not a good deal for Real Madrid.
No.
Spurs won that one. So it is quite remarkable that you've had this level of underachievement. They haven't even really been. Again, you only had 4 places in the Champions League, but they haven't really been Champions League regulars either.
No.
In this period. So here's the thing. we're assuming that they're kind of the mirror opposite of Manchester United. Manchester United, we assume that the manager is going to stay with Amorim, and a lot of the players are going to leave, which I think they may try to move a lot of the players. I'm not sure that many players are actually going to leave.
I agree.
Spurs, the players are going to stay, and many assume that the manager will leave regardless.
Yeah.
So his words afterwards were where he talked about, winning, and this could usher in a new era, and then you want to win more. And if it is a new era, it's not going to be with him, is it?
I don't think so. I mean, he was obviously very happy, and as you said, back in September when he said, I always win in my second season, and we were just waiting to see if that was going to be true or not. It was true, great. He also said something after the game, which I completely disagree with, when he said, you look at our league form and the fact that we had 21 defeats in the league and that we are 17th, but that it doesn't matter. That doesn't mean anything, because now we've won this trophy and we're building something with me. Well, no, you're not building something because you want a cup in a cup tournament, because the league is really where we can judge you. As you said earlier, this is 38 games when we can see the good and the bad, or the average.
You play everybody twice.
Yeah, exactly. And you have lost 21 games, which is the most in Premier League history for Spurs, which is a horrendous season. And that's the reason why he might not be there next season. And because that trumps, in a way, this great trophy. Is great to win the Europa League. You're a European champion. You will always be forever. You're the first Australian to win a European Cup. This is, as a coach, this is great. But the league form is your bread and butter. Is that what you say? English people say bread and butter. And that you didn't deliver at all. And that's the reason. You can't tell me this doesn't mean anything. Let's forget about the Premier League. No, we can't forget about the Premier League season that you had. Yeah. It's not possible, because you show your limits as a coach.
And that's the best gauge of where you are growing as a team.
Absolutely.
I can make some allowances, because once you go deep, and I said this about Amorim too, once you know you're going to qualify, you're not going to qualify for Europe, and you're not going to get relegated, I'm okay with you experimenting, and then you rest players, you take your eye off the ball in the league, so you get some bad results at the end. But the reality is, I think Spurs have been between 13th and 17th place since February?
Yeah, but the end of last season they were bad too. They lost a few games.
So, yeah, I think you can judge based on that. And I think you have to come to this conclusion that they're not in a good place.
Yeah.
Despite the fact that they won this. And I got a kind of question. Is it not just do we think Spurs will move on? If you were Levy, would you be saying, Ange, thank you very much?
Yeah.
You're not going to be the first person to be fired after winning a trophy, because, I think was it Jupp Heynckes or Hiddink who was fired after winning the Champions League at Real Madrid, right? So if it's good enough for Real Madrid, it ought to be good enough for Tottenham Hotspur,
I mean, Carlo Ancelotti got sacked after winning a double too. So, things like that happen. From what I was told, he knows he's going.
Is it the right decision?
Personally, I think so. I'm not sure you can build with Ange Postecoglou. I mean, and we said he's changed a little bit towards the end of the season. His style and his philosophy in the Premier League, I just don't think works. So if he's ready to change, and if he's ready to be a bit more pragmatic, if he's ready to tweak a few things, then maybe, but I'm not sure he wants to do that. Not at his age. I'm not sure the players are completely on board either, and I don't think they've been for a while. I think even fans, as happy as they were on Wednesday night, and that's natural, I've also lost patience with him and faith a long time ago, because when you lose that many games in the Premier League, yes, of course, winning the Europa League is great in the end, but it doesn't erase what happened in the last 10 months or so, which was terrible. So I think he knows he's going to be gone. I think they've already spoken to other managers. I think they made plans for pre-season in the summer without really him involved. So that might all change now. There's still plenty of time, but
I think some relationships with some players have also
absolutely
really deteriorated. And I think that's pretty evident.
Yeah.
I don't know that you can't be successful playing the way he wants to play, but it's not like the idea just is a failure, but you have to be able to get buy-in and execute it effectively. And I think we've seen that he was not able to do that with this group of players, and that's on him.
Yeah,
that's what you have to. You have to do it on the training pitch.
It's too gung ho. It's just
the same aspect. If you want, of having an original idea. and it coming down to how well you implement it, applies to the other manager, Ruben Amorim.
Yeah.
Now, I said 3-4-2-1 is really difficult for a lot of these players to understand. They've never played it before, almost all of them. So you have to give them time to teach the system, to learn the system. Some players are not going to be suited for it, others will. Are they learning it? Have they learned anything? Do you see any progress just on the tactical side? Obviously, the individual execution, it's still Højlund. He still has issues. It's still this one, that one. Diallo just coming back. Have you seen this progress?
Unfortunately, I haven't. I saw little bits there and there at times because they've had still some good results. You know, I know Man City are not having a great season, but they still beat them. They took 4 points off them. They went to Arsenal in the FA Cup and won there. Okay, maybe a little bit riding their luck, but they still did. They had a good game against Liverpool as well. So there have been moments where they looked a little bit better. But overall, they've won 1 league game since March the 6th. He's never won 2 league games in a row. How is that even possible?
Yeah. You can come back and talk about Mickey van de Veens saving the ball on the line. And look,
it's a great save, but I think Højlund should have scored every single day.
Yeah. It's the pick on Højlund thing.
You're right, it's too easy.
By the way, the commentator on my feed was blaming Vicario. He was like, I don't know what. I hate it when people are not goalkeepers. Like, I don't know what Vicario was doing there. It's
Solanke more than Vicario, really.
Solanke runs into Vicario. I'm not saying Solanke did it on purpose because he wanted to. But, dude, you're up in the air. This big man runs into you. I mean, come on, man. Seriously? But anyway, Vic.
But still, great from Van de Ven, to be fair.
Vic made a great save at the end. And you
had Van de Ven. It's a save that you expected him to make, right? We love Vic, but still. The show header, I mean, he's not even that far from on his left.
I don't know. I'm trying to give United some hope because if those two things go their way, they win the game. But again, I think you have to have an analysis and say, maybe had United won this game, maybe Amorim would get more buy-in and obviously he would have more resources. Now, projecting forward, you can spin this into a positive using the Conte thing, right? Which is, oh, look, no European football. I can have 4 training sessions a week all year and I can sit them and drill them.
And that's what he needs.
That's important.
Yeah.
I don't need as big a squad anymore, but then that's also slightly problematic because you have players you want to move on, and many of these guys are going to be difficult to move on. I mean, I think obviously Eriksen, Lindelof, Evans, these guys are out of contract, but some of these other guys is going to be tough.
Yeah.
I think the only way Amorim gets out of this is on the pitch. But let me chalk this to you. Bruno saying that he's willing to leave if it helps the club.
But helps in which way? Like, what does that mean?
All right. I think what he means, well, first of all, he's not really going to leave, right? He would need, the only way this helps the club for him leaving. So there is an argument to be made that tactically he's not a great fit for this team, right? Because if you play him in the midfield position, he's not really cut out to do that. He's not going to be press resistant in the same way, or if he does, then you lose his attacking input. He's playing further away from goal, and he's still your best assist man and your best goal scorer too. And playing him at 10, he's not exactly a pressing machine, right? So that's the argument. And so if you get 100 million, if you get some stupid amount of money for him, then maybe it helps the club if you're reinvested wisely. But I also think it's a moot point. Nobody's going to offer you an enormous fee for Bruno. And so you're going to have to make it work with Ruben Amorim. I think maybe he was saying this as a pick-me-up after the game to try to show how much he loves the club. I'll sacrifice myself, blah, blah, blah. I don't think there's anything sinister in it. Maybe trying to distract from the
I saw it in a very cynical way. And maybe it's just me. Because Bruno was so bad in this game. Maybe not just down to himself, but the tactics around him, the team around him, the players he played with. I just don't think he had the impact that he should have had. And for me, it's a way to just go back to your last point, a bit deflecting how bad he was by saying something like that we would all pick up on, obviously. And that maybe some fans will say, oh, he loves the club, so he's ready to... It's just an excuse for how bad he played.
I'm too gullible then.
I don't know. I'm sorry. I love that you've got better heart than me. That's all.
Final point on this: Heung-min Son did not get a medal after the game, but the reason he did it, I read up on this. This is interesting. So UEFA tell the teams, look, we have 50 winners medals and 50 runners up medals. You decide who gets the medal. That's how we see all those guys in like jumpsuits or the staff all coming up and they all want medals. And look, everybody's important in a team, right? Not to the same level, but
yeah, of course.
But you only get 30 medals from Chefrin. So in other words, you only get 30 medals. The other 20 dudes get their medals later, which I think is entirely reasonable because I don't
then
need
you will
to
be there forever. If everybody in the squad or in the staff overall gets one, you'll be there forever.
I'm assuming 30 seconds for him to get the medal, to put it around the neck, to shake hands and so on. If you're giving out 50 between both teams, plus the refereeing staff and whatever, you're there for an hour, right? Nobody wants that. The problem is, and the teams decide, I guess, I don't know if Spurs didn't want to jinx it by deciding, all right, these 30 guys are going up for the medal. But by the time Son went up, they had run out of medals. And you can actually see
he was the last one for the trophy, so
Chefrin looking a little bit panicked. And that's why, I mean, those of us who are watching on YouTube, you can see him behind us. Heung-min Son, the club captain, who didn't start this game, arguably should have. I know he wasn't fully fit, but whatever. The poor man does not have a medal. None of these other schlubs says, hey, Sonny, just for the picture, just a trophy lift, do you want my medal? Can you borrow it? What?
Mikey Moore has one, so it's fine.
I don't know. Who is that? Fraser Forster in the back? Did he grow a big beard?
Yeah, that's Fraser Forster.
Okay, Fraser, you're very tall. You can give him a medal.
Not sure if Fraser Forster got one. But one player, I won't say his name because, I mean, not that he would mind, but he's probably funny with that. Said to me, listen, not that I will ever win anything like that, but he said, there's 2 golden rules when you win a trophy. It's a bit like a big one, not just the Paris Cup that I won in 1994. But
the Paris Cup 1994.
Thank you very much.
If you played, I know we got a roll board. If you played against Jules in the 1994 Paris Cup, get in touch.
Please get in touch.
If you have video, give us highlights because you want to see a young Jules.
Great campaign.
Leading his team to the Paris Cup.
But that player said there's 2 golden rules here. First one, make sure you are amongst the first to go and get your medal. Unless you're the captain, but if you're not, go quickly.
Because they might run out.
And then make sure that you are close to the trophy for the photos. So Pedro Porro, Jet Spence, done so to some. But look at Van de Ven. Van de Ven should never be that far behind. He should be right up there. And that's all about tactics, where to position yourself for a trophy lift. Very important.